the Coleman medal.
The Norm Smith medal, Brownlow medal is Jimmy Bartel.
Matthew Lloyd.
Thanks, Eddie. Grand final day. It's all about the moments. Who can win more big moments than the opposition? We've got the two best sides here, chock full of talent, the Sydney Swans and the Brisbane Lions. And there's a key stat, Jimmy, that we like here that will decide who wins this game of football.
Yeah, uncontested marks, Lloydie. If these sides can get the uncontested mark game going, they've got too much ability, too much skill, and they can cut you apart. The flip side of that, if you want to defend each other, you've got to cut them out, because if you can squeeze the game, you can slow it down, play long down the line method.
So 100 marks is the key. So if you take 100 marks or more, uncontested marks, they don't lose these sides. So the Sydney Swans, they did a number on Port Adelaide last Friday night where they didn't allow Port to get a pressure game going because they just controlled the speed. Doesn't mean they go slow with it, but they control the game and they do this better than anyone.
Yeah, and look at this. Port Adelaide spend the whole entire time defending, so once you do get the footy back, you've got no energy to attack yourself. But as we watch, when the camera pans out, look at all the Swans players just getting a rest, but they're setting up the field really well. So if they do decide to go long, Port Adelaide look up and they run into a big wall, and that's what both these sides do really well. Just take the free, the next one has to come up, stand on the mark, you can't do much else to defend. But look at this, they're just getting in a good position, but they use good ball use here to get a good shot on goal.
And just on that, everyone thinks, grand finals are a heavy contested game, but both these teams like to play this way, and we'll get to soon the way the Lions have played the second halves in recent times, but they love to play this way too. They love to control possession of the ball, so you've got a real arm wrestle of who can get the game on their terms, and so that is how Brisbane like to play. And you'll ask, well, what's gone on the last few weeks? It's because they've been in such horrible positions against the Giants and the Cats. They've had to just go for it and play kamikaze footy, which has worked for them.
Yeah, and there's overlap handball, and managed to work, of course, against the Giants and the Cats late. But for me, Lloydie, the reason why they're doing this is because they've been getting caught behind in games, as we know, and we've seen some miraculous comebacks. And I think it's come off the back of their stoppage work, as we see another one that pulls the game apart. They actually start with a bit of control, but it's from here, Bailey just goes, because obviously you look at the score, it's on the line. This is an unbelievable kick here to Charlie Cameron. And then you watch Cameron, you think every Geelong defender thinks he's going to try and have a shot from 50. But look at his ability just to swing the ball around the corner here. But as I mentioned, they're getting themselves in this situation, I think, early in games because of around stoppage, and the opposition are coming up to them. So we saw against the Giants and the Cats, they're bringing up the extra half forward. So you have a look to the sides. There's a lot of times where the half forward is either coming up to the contest and the second one's getting forward side, which is pulling them apart. Because Dunkley, Neale, McCluggage love to get in tight, the sides feel like they can own the rest of the ground and get on the outside. So it becomes good things for the opposition if they can get the lines tucked inside and they get it on the outside. We saw it against the Giants. This is really early in the game. That's Daniels as a small forward up high in the contest. There's another forward that came up really high. It's coming through the middle of the ground there. And good things happen because you can pull Andrews and the rest of the side apart.
Yeah, so we're looking at the midfield matchups, and that's why you get here. I think it's the depth of your midfields which get you there, and stars everywhere. Like these are generational players, like with Warner, obviously Heaney, Goulden, and obviously Lachie Neale, the Brownlow medalist, plus Ashcroft coming through. So it's where this game will be won and lost, and it's also the ruck battle. So Brodie Grundy gets a golden opportunity, Jimmy, up against Darcy Ford, who's played 2 for the year, Danaher, who pinch hits, and there's a certain way you think he needs to play.
Yeah, we're going to show in a couple of these highlights. Big Broads, we know through his career as ruck, he loves to hit really tight because he gets to keep himself involved. But I want to see hits from this because we just highlighted a little bit earlier what Brisbane's troubles was getting on the outside of that initial bubble from a stoppage. So the old shop early to avoid the rush, a couple early from Brodie Grundy to open up the contest, which will give these dynamic Swans players, as we see here in these clips against the Giants. Look how good the Swans look once the game is opened up from the initial bubble. So Brodie has to sort of fight the urge a little bit early just to tap at his feet, because that's where Neale and Dunkley and these guys will be. Get on the outside a bit earlier, and that'll ask some more questions of the Lions midfield.
We're about to have Dane Zorko join us on Footy Classified, and he's a key person. And this may well win his 6th best and fairest in the next few weeks or so, and he's just been instrumental. So yes, he's had a few goals kicked on him, but what he brings to the opposition with the attack, he's just the offensive weapon for them. And we think James Jordan has to be the man that goes to him. And what James Jordan does extremely well is he doesn't just lock you down, but he picks the right time to work off you. So you see here on Lachie Whitfield, he gets him and he nails him, but then at the right time he'll say, OK, if you want to be offensive, he'll stay with you just here. but he also will look at the right times to try and hurt that offensive player. So we watch him here on Lachie Whitfield, and then he sees, well, Whitfield's going to track the footy, I'm off. So that's an interesting battle between potentially Dane and James Jordan.
Yeah, great attention and concentration. And I've gone the other end, the Lizard, Nick Blakey, and I think halfbacks do extremely well in grand finals, and he'll probably be my Norm Smith tip, but it's his ability, like Zorko, to catch the opposition really short. So, and brave with his ball use. We know what a raking left foot kick is, but you watch whenever he takes the ball, he's either putting it under his arm, taking ground, or his head is up, and he's trying to take as much ground by foot. I love this edit. He started with a lot of these Swans players, keeps moving, catches the Crows player here. I'm not sure what we're doing here for the Crows looking. Game over from 55. From the half-back, you become a scoring option and a real weapon.
If Brisbane are to win, it wouldn't surprise me if Harris Andrews wins the Norm Smith medal. He reminds me of what Brian Lake did a number of years ago, because his marking is just unbelievable. He reads it really early, and I just think Amadi, McLean, McDonald, I don't think any of them are going to worry him. So I do think that Luke Parker should be somebody who should go to Harris Andrews and look to nullify him, because this is what he's done through the final series. Only Aliir has taken more marks than Harris Andrews.
That's why they tagged him in last year's grand final. And Lloydie, I know you and I both love this next player. Little Paps, he's the fire starter. He plays like he's 6'7", but we think sometimes you can go after him as well, because you want to see how much of this energy you can take out of him. So we picked a couple of guys from the Lions who likely get the match up throughout the day, and can they match Papley's energy and his ability to lift the Swans? Look at this. This is quarter time. I'll give you some. He'll give anyone some. Just come to his party. But can, through Starcevic and Answorth, who don't mind just standing there and standing up for themselves, can they just keep pushing him and pushing him? Maybe a touch too far.
In the 2000 grand final, we thought Jeff Farmer was the energy for Melbourne. So Mark Johnson's job was to upset the Wizard Farmer in that grand final and just get under his skin. So the Lions have two fantastic players who can do that. Just on Rampy and Cunningham, they've had wonderful final series. And obviously the Lions have some stars in, obviously, Charlie Cameron and also Cam Rayner, who these two might go to.
Yeah, you highlighted Rampy last week, and you were so impressed with his game in there at the SCG, and I can't keep singing this bloke's praises anymore. He just keeps putting forwards to sleep. He takes them on to Cunningham Island, and it's pretty deserted there for the small forwards. He one goal last week, but took Rioli, who was potentially the match winner, out of the game, and we know Brent Daniels had a fantastic year. OK, premiership tip and Norm Smith medalist for you, Jimmy. I'm going to go the Sydney Swans. I think they've been the best team all year. As the year's gone on, we've tried to find their warts. As I mentioned, Nick Blakey, I think halfbacks do really well in the Norm Smith. I think Hodgie, JJ, you think even Basher Hooley voted really well. So I'm going the Lizard, Nick Blakey, for the Norm Smith. Yeah, Sydney and Chad Warner for me, Eddie.
Good on you. What about you, Damo?
Yeah, as Oscar McInerney's absence there does sway me Sydney Swans way, and it won't surprise anyone to know that I'm going to go for the Chad for the Norm Smith.
All right, well, McInerney's out, and that swings it my way as well, and I think it'll be a Grundy production that'll see the Norm Smith medal go to my boy,
There you go.
Brody. And if he does win the Norm Smith medal, the Sydney Swans win the grand final.